Imagine waking up 70,000 years ago in a world teeming with at least 6 different human species. Now fast forward to today, where Homo sapiens reigns supreme as the only human species left, shaping the entire planet in our image. What happened? How did we come to dominate the Earth? The answer might surprise you. It wasn't our physical strength or even our intelligence alone. Instead, our unprecedented success stems from our unique ability to believe in shared myths and stories, money, nations, human rights. These are all powerful fictions that exist only in our collective imagination, yet they've enabled us to cooperate on a massive scale and change the face of our planet. Intrigued? Well, you're in for a mind-bending journey through human history. Welcome to CEO's Library, the 1% bookshelf, where we dive deep into the most impactful books shaping industries and driving innovation. I'm your host, and today we're exploring a book that has revolutionized our understanding of human history and society. Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. Since its publication in 2014, Sapiens has taken the world by storm, selling millions of copies and earning praise from thought leaders like Bill Gates and Barack Obama. But what makes this book so special? Well, Harari has a unique talent for zooming out and seeing the big picture of human history, connecting dots across millennia in ways that challenge our fundamental assumptions about society, economics, and even human nature itself. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll embark on a whirlwind tour through 70,000 years of human history, exploring the key revolutions that have shaped our species: the cognitive revolution, the agricultural revolution, the unification of humankind, and the scientific revolution. We'll delve into Harari's most provocative ideas, challenge our preconceptions, and hopefully, by the end of this episode, you'll see the world and your place in it in a whole new light. So, fasten your seatbelts and prepare for a mind-expanding journey through the history of our species. Let's dive in. Our story begins around 70,000 years ago with what Harari calls the cognitive revolution. But to understand its significance, we need to step back even further. Imagine a world where humans weren't the only game in town. Hard to picture, right? But for most of our history, that was the reality. Homo sapiens shared the planet with at least 6 other human species, including the robust Neanderthals in Europe, the diminutive Homo floresiensis in Indonesia, and several others spread across Asia. So, what happened? Why are we the only ones left standing? This is where the cognitive revolution comes in. Around 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens developed a unique cognitive ability that set us apart from our human cousins. This wasn't just a small upgrade in brain power, it was a quantum leap that fundamentally changed how we think and communicate. The key to this revolution was our newly acquired ability to think and communicate about things that don't physically exist. Sounds simple, right? But this was a game changer. Suddenly we could create and believe in shared myths, stories, and imagined realities. Think about it. Can you gather a group of chimpanzees and convince them to go to war for the glory of their nation? Can you persuade a band of gorillas to give you bananas by promising them they'll receive limitless bananas in the afterlife? Of course not. But humans? We do this all the time. This ability to believe in shared fictions is the secret source of human cooperation. It allows us to flexibly cooperate in large numbers with total strangers. A Christian believes in the divinity of Christ, a Muslim in the prophecies of Muhammad, and a Buddhist in the 4 Noble Truths. None of these exist in objective reality, but because people believe in them, they shape the world in very real ways. But it's not just religion. Think about companies. What is Peugeot? You can't touch or see Peugeot itself. If you destroyed all its cars and factories, Peugeot would continue to exist. It's a legal fiction, a story we all agree to believe in. And this shared belief allows thousands of people who don't know each other to effectively cooperate and produce cars. The same goes for nations, money, and human rights. None of these exist in objective reality. You won't find human rights under a microscope or discover a country if you dig deep enough into the earth. They're stories, myths, shared fictions. But they're incredibly powerful ones that shape our world in profound ways. This cognitive leap allowed sapiens to innovate rapidly, adapt to new environments quickly, and cooperate in ever larger groups. It gave us a crucial edge over other human species, leading to their eventual extinction and our global dominance. But here's a thought to ponder. If so much of our world is based on shared fictions, what implications does that have for our society? What myths are you believing in without questioning? Are nations really as solid and eternal as they seem, or are they just stories we tell ourselves? What about money or human rights? The cognitive revolution set the stage for everything that followed. It's what allowed us to create complex societies, develop agriculture, build empires, and eventually launch rockets into space. But it also raises profound questions about the nature of our reality and the basis of our social structures. As we move on to discuss the agricultural revolution, keep this in mind. The world as we know it is largely a product of our collective imagination, and that imagination is an incredibly powerful force, for better or for worse. Now let's fast forward to about 12,000 years ago, when humanity underwent another seismic shift, the agricultural revolution. On the surface, this seems like an unequivocally positive development. After all, farming allowed us to produce more food, support larger populations, and build the first cities and civilizations. It's the foundation of our modern world. But Harari challenges us to look at this revolution from a different angle, and his perspective might surprise you. Imagine you're a hunter-gatherer living 15,000 years ago. Your day might involve a few hours of foraging for fruits and nuts, maybe some hunting if you're lucky. You spend time with your small, tight-knit band, sharing stories, playing with children, or simply relaxing. Your diet is varied, consisting of dozens of different plant and animal species. You're intimately familiar with your environment and the creatures that inhabit it. Now fast forward a few thousand years, you're a farmer. You spend long hours bent over in the fields, planting, weeding, harvesting. Your diet consists mainly of the few crops you grow. Mostly grains that provide calories, but not necessarily good nutrition. Your teeth are rotting from all the carbohydrates. You live in constant fear of crop failure and starvation. You're at the mercy of weather, pests, and diseases that can wipe out your entire food supply. This is the paradox of the agricultural revolution that Harari presents. While it allowed human populations to explode, the quality of life for the average person likely decreased. Farmers worked harder than foragers, suffered from more diseases due to cramped living conditions and proximity to domesticated animals, and had a less varied and less nutritious diet. So why did we switch to agriculture if it made life harder? Harari argues that it was, in essence, a trap. Once the process started, it was hard to reverse. More food led to population growth, which required more farmland and more intensive agriculture, which in turn supported even larger populations. Each generation found itself committed to working harder to feed more mouths. But there's more to this story. The agricultural revolution also led to the first significant social hierarchies. In hunter-gatherer societies, there was little room for accumulated wealth. You couldn't carry more than you could handle. But with agriculture came the concept of property, surplus, and therefore inequality. Some people could accumulate more than others, leading to the first real social classes. This revolution also changed our relationship with other species. We domesticated plants and animals, shaping their evolution to suit our needs. But Harari provocatively suggests that we might view this the other way around. Wheat, rice, potatoes, and cattle domesticated us. These species manipulated Homo sapiens to dramatically expand their habitats and ensure their survival. The agricultural revolution set the stage for everything that followed in human history, the rise of cities, kingdoms, empires, and eventually our modern global civilization. But it also introduced many of the problems we still grapple with today. Social inequality, the disconnect between humans and nature, and our vulnerability to the very systems we've created to support our large populations. So, I want you to consider, was the agricultural revolution a mistake? It's easy to say no from our modern perspective. After all, it led to all the comforts and technologies we enjoy today. But what if we could ask a peasant toiling in the fields 5,000 years ago, or a child suffering from malnutrition in a crowded ancient city? Their answers might be very different. This isn't just an academic exercise. Understanding the long-term consequences of the agricultural revolution can inform how we think about our current challenges. Are we trapped in systems of our own making? Are we sacrificing quality of life for progress? As we face global issues like climate change and wealth inequality, these questions become increasingly relevant. The agricultural revolution was a turning point in human history, but its legacy is complex and not universally positive. As we move forward to discuss the unification of humankind, keep in mind how these early changes in human society set the stage for the global world we inhabit today. As we've seen, the cognitive revolution gave us the ability to create and believe in shared myths, while the agricultural revolution allowed us to support larger, more complex societies. These developments set the stage for what Harari calls the unification of humankind, a gradual process that has been ongoing for millennia and continues to this day. Let's start with a thought experiment. Imagine you could go back in time and show a map of the world to people living 20,000 years ago. They would see a world fragmented into countless isolated human bands, each with its own way of life, beliefs, and language. Fast forward to today and we see a world increasingly unified by global empires, international trade, and universal religions and ideologies. This unification didn't happen overnight. It's been a long, often violent process driven by three main forces: empires, money, and universal religions. Let's start with empires. Throughout history, empires have been the most common form of political organization. From the Roman Empire to the Chinese dynasties to the British Empire, these vast political entities have consistently worked to homogenize the populations under their rule. They imposed common languages, legal systems, and cultural practices across diverse groups of people. While we often focus on the negative aspects of imperialism, and there are many, Harari points out that empires also played a crucial role in spreading ideas, technologies, and cultures, gradually knitting together disparate human societies. Next, let's talk about money. Money is perhaps the most universal and most efficient system of mutual trust ever devised. Think about it. You can take a piece of paper with some numbers printed on it to the other side of the world, hand it to a complete stranger who doesn't speak your language, and receive goods or services in return. It's quite remarkable when you think about it. Money allowed people who didn't know or trust each other to nevertheless cooperate effectively. It transcended borders, languages, and cultures, creating a global economic web that continues to grow more complex. Finally, we have universal religions and ideologies. Unlike the local and exclusive religions of most of human history, universal religions like Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam, and later ideologies like liberalism or socialism, claimed universal validity and actively sought converts. These belief systems provided a common language and set of values that could unite people across vast distances. The interplay of these three forces, empires, money, and universal religions, ideologies, has driven an accelerating trend towards global unification. Today, we live in a world where most people share similar political structures, states, economic systems, capitalism, and values, human rights, for instance. But here's where it gets interesting and controversial. Harari argues that this unification process has been largely independent of human desires. In other words, it wasn't necessarily planned or chosen, but rather emerged from the dynamics of history. Moreover, he suggests that the ultimate outcome of this process, a single, global civilization, is probably inevitable. This raises some profound questions. Is global unification a good thing? On one hand, it has led to unprecedented peace and cooperation between humans on a global scale. On the other hand, it has often come at the cost of cultural diversity and local autonomy. Are we sacrificing the rich tapestry of human cultures for a more homogeneous, but perhaps more stable, global civilization? Moreover, what does this mean for the future? If we're heading towards an ever more unified world, what form will it take? Will it be a global democracy, a worldwide market, or something we can't yet imagine? And perhaps most provocatively, Harari suggests that this unification might not stop with humans. As we develop more advanced artificial intelligence and begin to merge with our technologies, could we be moving towards a single, global web of human and machine consciousness? The unification of humankind is not just history, it's an ongoing process that we're all part of. Understanding this trend can help us make sense of many current global issues, from debates about globalization to the rise of nationalist movements pushing back against this unifying tide. As we move into our final section on the scientific revolution, consider how this long-term trend towards unification has set the stage for the explosive changes of the last few centuries. And ask yourself, where do you see this process of unification in your own life? How do you feel about being part of this grand historical trend? We've journeyed through millennia of human history, from the cognitive revolution that kick-started our rise to global dominance, through the agricultural revolution that transformed our societies to the gradual unification of humankind. Now we arrive at the scientific revolution, a transformation so profound that it has reshaped not just human society, but the entire face of our planet. The scientific revolution began about 500 years ago, but to understand its significance we need to grasp how radically it differed from what came before. For most of human history, people believed that the important things in the world were already known. The great gods, or the one almighty God, or the wise people of the past possessed all-encompassing wisdom. The job of humans was to interpret and preserve this knowledge, not to discover new truths. But then something changed. Around the 16th century, humans began to admit their own ignorance. Instead of relying solely on past traditions, they started to seek new knowledge through observation and experimentation. This might seem obvious to us now, but it was a revolutionary idea at the time. This new scientific mindset, combined with the imperial ambitions of European powers, created a feedback loop of knowledge and power. The more scientific knowledge Europeans acquired, the more powerful they became. The more powerful they became, the more resources they could invest in scientific research. This virtuous cycle quickly led to European domination of the globe. But the scientific revolution wasn't just about accumulating knowledge. It was about using that knowledge to gain new powers. Science allowed humans to do things previously considered impossible, to fly in the sky, to communicate across vast distances, to peer into the depths of atoms and out to the edges of the universe. Harari argues that the true power of science comes not just from observation, but from combining those observations with mathematical tools to create predictive theories. These theories then allow us to develop new technologies, which in turn drive economic growth, which funds more scientific research, and so on. This process has accelerated to the point where the pace of change has become dizzying. Consider this: more change has happened in the last 200 years than in the previous 4,000. We've gone from horse-drawn carriages to space travel, from leeches to gene therapy, from handwritten letters to instant global communication. But with great power comes great responsibility, and this is where Harari's analysis becomes particularly thought-provoking and perhaps unsettling. The immense power given to us by science has made humans more destructive than ever before. We are in the midst of causing a mass extinction event, radically changing our planet's climate and developing technologies that could potentially end human civilization as we know it. Moreover, science has shaken the foundations of our old belief systems without necessarily providing new ones to take their place. It has debunked many religious myths, but it doesn't tell us what's right and wrong or what the purpose of life should be. This has led to a kind of existential crisis in modern society. Harari also points out a crucial irony. While science has been incredibly successful at explaining and manipulating the outer world, it has been much less successful at understanding and shaping human consciousness and behavior. We can send probes to Mars, but we still struggle to cure depression or ensure global peace. Looking to the future, Harari sees the potential for even more radical changes. Advances in biotechnology and artificial intelligence might soon allow us to engineer our bodies and minds, creating superhumans with abilities far beyond what we consider normal today. This raises profound ethical questions. Who will have access to these technologies? How will they reshape society? Could they lead to new forms of inequality or even split our species into biological castes? The scientific revolution has given our species unprecedented power, but it has not necessarily made us happier or more fulfilled. We can cure diseases that would have been death sentences for our ancestors, but we've also created new afflictions. Think of the stress-related illnesses that plague modern societies. We can produce more than enough food to feed everyone on the planet, but we haven't eliminated hunger and malnutrition. So, as we stand on the cusp of even more dramatic scientific breakthroughs, we're faced with crucial questions. How can we harness the power of science responsibly? How do we balance progress with preservation of our environment, our cultures, and our humanity itself? Can we use our scientific understanding not just to manipulate the world around us, but to improve our own well-being and create more fulfilling lives? These aren't just abstract philosophical questions, they're challenges that will shape the future of our species and our planet. As you go about your day, using technologies that would have seemed like magic to people just a century ago, I encourage you to reflect on the incredible journey that brought us here and to consider your role in shaping where we go next. The scientific revolution is not over. In many ways, it's just beginning. And each of us, through our choices and actions, is participating in this ongoing transformation of our world. As we wrap up our whirlwind tour through 70,000 years of human history, let's take a moment to reflect on the key insights we've explored from Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens. We began with the cognitive revolution, which gave Homo sapiens the unique ability to create and believe in shared fictions. This allowed us to cooperate flexibly in large numbers, outcompeting other human species and spreading across the globe. We then examined the agricultural revolution, which Harari provocatively suggests may have been a trap, leading to harder lives for individuals, even as it allowed for larger populations and more complex societies. Next, we explored the long process of the unification of humankind, driven by empires, money, and universal religions and ideologies. This ongoing trend has shaped our world into the globally connected civilization we inhabit today. Finally, we delved into the scientific revolution, which has given our species unprecedented power to shape our environment and ourselves, while also presenting us with existential challenges. Throughout this journey, we've seen how Harari challenges us to question our assumptions about progress, about the structures of our societies, and even about what it means to be human. He shows us that many things we take for granted, nations, money, human rights, are actually shared fictions, stories we tell ourselves to enable large-scale cooperation. But far from diminishing the importance of these ideas, this perspective highlights their power. It shows us that humans have the ability to change their social structures and behaviors rapidly by changing the stories they believe in. This is both empowering and sobering. It means we have the power to reshape our world, but also that we bear the responsibility for the outcomes. As we look to the future, Harari's insights raise profound questions. In a world where we can increasingly engineer our own bodies and minds, what will it mean to be human? As artificial intelligence advances, how will the relationship between humans and machines evolve? And as we face global challenges like climate change and potential pandemics, can we use our understanding of history to create new fictions that will enable us to cooperate on a global scale? These are not just academic questions, they're challenges that will shape the lives of everyone on this planet in the coming decades. By understanding our history, the long path that led us to where we are today, we can make more informed choices about where we want to go next. I encourage you to sit with these ideas, discuss them with friends and colleagues, and most importantly, consider how they might influence your own views and actions. Remember, the shared fictions that shape our world are not set in stone, that they're created and maintained by all of us every day. If you've found these ideas as fascinating and thought-provoking as I have, I highly recommend diving into the full book. Sapiens offers a wealth of details, anecdotes, and additional insights that we couldn't cover in this brief overview. You can find a link to purchase the book or audiobook in the description of this episode. Before we close, I'd like to leave you with one final thought from Harari. He writes, "We study history not to know the future, but to widen our horizons, to understand that our present situation is neither natural nor inevitable, and that we consequently have many more possibilities before us than we imagine." In that spirit, I encourage you to look at the world around you with fresh eyes. Question the structures and beliefs you take for granted, and consider how you might help shape the next chapter in the incredible story of our species. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Sapiens. Until next time, keep reading, keep questioning, and keep expanding your horizons.